window, and I think it's perfect in the window. At one point, there was a carving out of driftwood from, you see those marks up there, those,
Right.
they came all the way down to the altar. But apparently one of the sons didn't like it and they took it down. So that is, you know, we're without that. This is original, the altar is original. The tiles, I understand that Alene and her best friend put the tiles in themselves. All the pretty tiles with the flowers. They've had numerous weddings up here. It was in sometime during the 2000s that, I think it was 2004 or 2005, that David commissioned these to be done, the stained glass windows. And just something that Betty always told everybody is when they put these in, whoever built them wanted pillows up here and didn't quite know what to use. So these are rolls of paper towels. So there are some silly things here too.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay.
Well, I'm Karla Morton, and I have the great honor of being the 2010 Texas Poet Laureate. And how the Poet Laureate system works in Texas, we've actually had one since 1932, one of the longest running states to have one. Anyone can nominate anyone else in Texas for the position of laureate, and all of those nominations go to the TCA, the Texas Commission of the Arts. They go through, and those that are qualified are invited to send in their portfolios and resumes and that type of thing. And then the TCA whittles that list of up to 10 people. That list goes to the legislature that meets every 2 years, and the governor, lieutenant governor, and Texas House of Representatives have Texans spread out all over the United States. I'm sorry, not all over the United States, all over Texas. We'll edit that. So they have people chosen all over the state of Texas who make the final decisions on the laureate, and they choose 2 at a time. So they chose the 2009 and the 2010 at the same time. And basically, the laureate is the highest position a poet can reach in the state of Texas. We also have a national poet laureate over the entire United States. And there is no set agenda for the laureate. They can create the title and position as they want. There's no funding, there's no crown, no tiara. No tiara.
How rude.
So what I chose to do after I hyperventilated on the side of the road and did a crazy woman dance when I got the phone call that I was named, I thought, what can I do to give back? What can I do to give back to Texas? Because I have wanted to be laureate since I was in the 8th grade when I heard about it. And so I thought about being in the 8th grade, and I thought, I'm going to set up a little town Texas tour, traveling to schools and communities all across the state. And I'm writing a poem about each place I go, and then the kids are having in the secondary schools especially, having a poetry and an art contest about their town. They have it and they judge it. And then my work, and I'm choosing the winning poetry and artwork from the kids, and it's going to go into a book together. That way kids all across Texas have a chance to be published, and nothing inspires you more than seeing your work in your name in print. So I'm so excited about that, and it seems on one level such a small thing that it's just my way of giving back. And I can't think of a better place than Port Aransas. It's just the arts here are held up in such high standing, and the people are so genuine and warm. It just makes me fall in love with Texas all over again. I'm not one to believe in coincidences. I think that so many things, there's greater plans and greater circles than we know of. So it's truly an honor to be here, and Alene was just such an amazing poet and did so much for not just this area, but for the state of Texas. And she's definitely one that will always be remembered. And to create things like this is just incredible. And I'm very honored to be here. I just had a book come out from TCU Press, which, you know, anyone this day and age that's publishing poetry is doing it out of a labor of love, because you know, it does not sell quite like the Spence novels. And here TCU comes out and gives me this beautiful turquoise hardbound book with a linen cover, and it's just so gorgeous. So I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for them for doing this. And so while we're here, I thought I'd read a couple of things. This particular poem, I'm always listening. I always feel like as poets, as writers, that we're all storytellers, even if they're just little bitty stories. And this particular one, something mundane is getting my oil changed in my truck, and I was inside, and this guy came in, and I noticed his accent was something north of the Mason-Dixon. So me, being the curious cat that I am, had to strike up a conversation. And he told me a story in this 3-minute time period, and I thought, how courageous, and it has to be remembered. So this is just this man's story, and this is called Alamo Coastline. There is no Statue of Liberty in Texas, no huge lighthouse in the hill country to guide wayward souls out of the dark and home to safety. But I met a man today, new to Texas, and I asked him how he found his way here. He stopped for a moment as his eyes filled and said, back in '91, he lost all 3 of his kids in a house fire. Said he had to leave. Said he needed a place to go to get away from their ghosts. And he had heard about Texas, how the sky was so big, how the sun burned pink before it set, and thought maybe there he could find enough space for his ghosts, enough light to lead him home through the dark.
That was wonderful.
This place is all about light. It's all about reaching out, I think, back and forth, and I thought that was something that needed to be included. This one, my brother was stationed in Aviano, Italy for a while. As we determined, he was in the triple nickels for a little bit. I talked to him last night from that last night. It's amazing. Again, these circles, these coincidences that just come back around. But and I had a friend growing up who sculpted, and we always had these deep philosophical conversations and about how sculpture was meant to be touched. Yeah, you know. Yeah. Okay, don't we know this? Well, this is a true story about my first visit to the Louvre. I did get to be invited back though. It's called For Love and Michelangelo. There is a memory in touch, lips on a coffee cup, feet in the sand, your hand on my leg. A hand so sure and strong, it reminds me of standing in the Louvre years ago, entranced by Michelangelo's slave sculptures. I just couldn't resist running my hand up one statue's calf and into its thigh, shuddering at the feel of such amazing muscle definition and marble. Guards, machine guns, immediately appeared, not convinced when I explained to them how sculpture was meant to be touched, how it comes alive in the human hand. It's a gesture so old and familiar, one like the old master himself would have done, a satisfied smile on his face.
a smile like yours now. You stroke my skin as though you've touched every inch of me in another life. Back when chiseled marble was the photograph. Back when men took the time to seduce beauty from a stone. Now, I don't know how long you want me to go. You want to do a couple more?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Just beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I know this is just,
Incredible.
this is such a beautiful place. There's one that I wanted to read because the wind is just, the wind is speaking to us here so eloquently. The wind and I have gone way back. I don't know, I've always wanted things that caught the wind, whether to wear them or hair, or to hang things down in trees and the ribbons. I just think the wind is amazing. And this is about my mother-in-law. And hospice is, as we know, an incredible thing. How those people in hospice regenerate themselves day to day is amazing to me. It's a regeneration, it really is. And I happen to have the same hospice worker. We had 3 deaths within 3 months in our family. It was just one of those surreal times, but we had the same hospice worker. And our dog died during that time too, and I felt like we needed her just as much for our dog, because you know they're part of the family. Oh my gosh, your heart. And so, but this is about the hospice workers. This is called The Closer. They talked about it often, about the best way to die and the worst. They had seen it all, knew all the signs. Declining urine, gluing nails, rising temperature, chain-stoking breath. But some patients would hang on, despite these sure signs, long past the time when their body should have simply given up. Long past their family's emotional and physical limits. And that's when they called her in, the one they named the Closer. She would fly into the room clad in bright clothes, cursing the road and the traffic, hinting of fresh cigarettes, and lift that dark, dank room full of weeping and doom with a wicked smile and an off-colored joke, introducing herself irreverently to everyone there, saying who she was and what time it was, saying she was there to send every one of them off. Bon voyage. Farewell. Arrivederci. Vaya con Dios. And she would tell the family to say their goodbyes and go out together somewhere to eat or drink or smoke or just drive, because some people just don't want to die with everybody watching. And sure enough, they would. Every time the family would leave and the dying would die. So many people asked her what the secret was to her hospice badge of honor, but she'd just shrug her shoulders and joke in her hard, gruff voice, I guess I could just close the deal. But the day she came for us and told us to go, I lingered, hiding behind the door, and watched her open the window, though it was dark and freezing outside. And she sat by my mother and gently took her hand and whispered something inaudible, but in a tone so low and heartfelt, it brought tears to my eyes. And I felt the sudden swirl of breeze, smelled the perfume I remembered from so long ago, and turned my eyes to the opening of the window, knowing death had come and swept the room, knowing her soul had become the same color as the wind. Thank you. It's that wind, I tell you. It's that wind.
I know, it's the wind making us cry.
That's it. It's all the particles that it's just sweeping up.
That was beautiful.
Oh,
Very cute.
thank you.
You can come in, Dan.
Better angle here.
Swept out.
Let's see. Do y'all have a lot of scorpions here?
Yes.
We have a few. Well, there was one that I had written out in Marfa. I was just out there. Oh my goodness, and it is just amazing. But let's see. Let me do something else. This one. My husband is in the medical industry on the business end of it, and it's kind of like being in the military, except for the shoes are much better, prettier. You know, you move every 3 to 5 years, but once the kids reached junior high school, we knew we had to be from somewhere. They had to be from somewhere, so we stopped moving then. But every place we moved, he told me I could sound like a local, and so this is called picking up the accent. My husband calls me a chameleon. Says that everywhere I go, I pick up the accent, sounding just like a local within a few months of living there. I had no idea I did that. I wonder if it's the food. But maybe that's what finding your own voice is all about. Maybe it's not so much about where we're from, but where we've been that matters. We ingest every experience. All those heartbreaks and sunsets and music and kisses seep into the bone, curve the hand around the pen, streak the hair, deepen the dimples, and lilt the vocabulary like quick whiskey to the tongue. We can't help but bring it all to the table. It took me 2 hours and 42 years to write this poem. Perhaps one day I'll travel to the moon and learn the silence accent from the barren craters and powdered tangs, and mix it all in with the Florida sunshine and citrus, the Carolina society and sugar, the New Orleans les bon ton anglais and gumbo, the cowboy boots and Tex-Mex, and all those other places I've yet to know, and then see what emerges the next time I come to the table and sit down to write a poem. Thank you. Alpine and Marfa. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful place. There's a few places in this tour that have just reached me deeply. One was Hardin, Texas, a little town of 300 people in the middle of the state, the Marfa Alpine area. This one is definitely one of them as well. But out in Marfa, scorpions and I, oh, you know, there's nothing more frightening than a scorpion, okay? It's just this big only, but it'll put up that tail, it'll come up like, bah! You know, it can make us, we must seem like monsters to it, but it can chase me out of the room, that's for sure.
It can sting you and they almost make you dead.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. So I'm just,
I
always
lost my
been
voice
scared of
one time when a scorpion did me.
see, exactly,
Uh-huh.
exactly. They're just tiny, but they're fierce. They're just.
It was during the war out here. My mom went up to the army and got one of the physicians to come to town. She was so frightened.
Oh, that is so scary. Where did it sting you, on the foot or the hand?
On the hand.
On the hand?
I was
Yeah.
digging through a box of nuts.
Ugh, ow.
Yeah.
Well, see, they're just frightening creatures. And so I saw one in Marfa that just completely changed my whole idea of scorpions. And it was a mama scorpion. And it walked by, and there were just tons of babies on her back.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And one fell off, and she stopped and took that tail and put it back on. I'm like, okay. So I researched and found that they mated for life. Okay. They always travel So that was the night that I made peace with scorpions. And this is called Making Peace with Scorpions.
Good time.
I learned they always traveled in pairs, but they mated for life. And when one walked across my path, dozens of babies high on her back, one fell off, her long venomous tail gently scooping it up, cracking it back on its perch. My heart clicked open. That night, I dreamed of a scorpion with an almond-shaped tail. And the next day, as we walked together, shadow to shadow, on top of those Marfa mountains, marveling at the endless view, at the millions of chalcedonian agate at our feet, I wondered how I ever could have cursed a creature with that much God in its eyes.
Bravo.
Let's see, what's one you haven't? Oh, I'll read this one. I know what I want to read for you men. And because we know, ladies, that men are just different. You know, we can lock arm in arm and be close and, you know, you realize it, but when you get together, you have space around you. You know, I was thinking about that and driving down the road, and I looked out at this field of longhorn cattle, right? Now we all know longhorns, right? And I thought, that is a man. So this is called Texas Longhorns. I always thought them the loneliest of creatures, perfectly happy to be on their own for days at a time. And when they are together, they're unable to breach that deadly horn span that keeps them apart. No side-by-side touching, no hugs, self-sufficient and tough, smart and gentle. My father and brother sit at the supper table, heads down, eating. 4 feet of silence in between them. Women come and go and hover and peck like cowbirds, but they need nothing more than food when they hunger, the sun on their backs, and miles of barbed wire to mark what's their own. And that's one thing that I encourage the kids to write, because they all have stories, and they're all important stories. I mean, it makes you who you are. And a friend of mine in Denton, she is a storyteller. She tells me her family stories all the time, and I just soak it up. And over the years, she's been telling me these. And she had 2 particular stories that I couldn't help but put right next to each other. One was being in her family was little Fly Lexney. And if you weren't named a certain name, you couldn't go to the Edgecombe Manor, because the ghost of that family member would come, you know, check you out. And that was so bizarre in its own story. Oh, okay, well, all the kids named that. And the other story was about sleeping in this house that had no fence out on the range, and all the cattle coming out to the windows, you know. So I put those stories together. This is called Longhorned Angels. To tell the truth, she felt a little left out. All of the descendants named Blanche decreed to spend one night at the Edgecombe Manor in Alabama, in Great Aunt Blanche's room, where she'd come back from the dead to stand in the window to have a look at them. But you're just not a Blanche, her mother would say. One night, at an old fenceless ranch house west of Georgetown, she woke to a huge longhorn staring in the window, his great round nostrils steaming patches on the cool grass, the cool glass. This land, she thought, was where she belonged, where no ghost dare cross the paths of night rattlers, where long-horned angels keep watch until dawn.
Drink water and stomp around in it, make a big mud boat.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And look in the windows. And the first night we moved to the house where I grew up, they came and stood on the porch all night. We had to build a fence.
I can imagine how discerning that is to look out there. You can see that big face. Oh, that's funny. That's exactly what she was talking about. All right, let's see. Do a couple more here. I have a friend who thinks that he is an atheist. He is not. He is the kindest, most gentle person there is, but he was brought up hard Southern Baptist and told he was a sinner his whole life. And I just think that's so sad because he's such a wonderful, beautiful soul. This is called bad theology. She couldn't convince him that he was a good man, a kind man, a moral man. He had grown up spoon-fed on brimstone and sinnery, told he was destined for eternal damnation. So ironic, she thought, that religion made God's work so much harder, kept so many good people away from the church. But she hoped God worked his magic out there when he was out on the plains, the morning mist rising off the river, his long, strong legs wrapped tight around the warm muscle of the horse, his breath rounding in perfect halo about his head. Let's see. I know. I just, there's certain things, I read a poem today called Humanity to a group of kids, and it's about, let's see if I have it. It's about these little hatchlings that fell out of a nest. Here it is. It's real short. It's just a moment. I tend to be, some poets have great universal causes and themes that they write about. I tend to be a poet of moments, just little tiny breaths that you wouldn't think twice about. I just think that's the beauty in life.
They seem pretty universal.
Well,
So far.
exactly. Well, that's exactly right. Those tiny moments are encompassing everyone. So, but this is one of those little moments. It's called Humanity. Hoisting up the sail, 4 hatchlings tumbled out to the deck. I picked them up, warm and limp, like tan, wet cotton balls. Put them back in the nest. Throw them over, he had said. No. Throw them over. No. I hate it when you do this. You can't save them. Just throw them over. But I had to try. He didn't see them, eyes closed and helpless. He didn't hold them in his palm or feel the tiny, quick beats of their hearts. That was just that moment. It's like, okay, what do you do? If you know the mama bird won't come back for your scent, Or do, what's the humanity, what's the human thing to do? To let them drown quickly and painlessly, let them starve in case it's, these are just those questions that they're just, whatever you do, don't lose the written word. But of course, when the alphabet was invented, the same philosophical problem was going on, because poetry was originally an oral art form, and they said, with the invention of the alphabet, poetry will no longer exist. You're taking all of the oral tradition out of it. So maybe this is just another morphing, and who knows where it will be. But if we're wrapping up, are we wrapping up? I'll end with one. Are we carrying on or wrapping up? I have no.
We're enjoying it.
Yeah. You want two more or one more? Two. Let's see.
I want to know where to buy. Do you have books with you that we can buy?
I do have books.
I'd love
yes.
to buy.
I have this one. I have let me tell you what I have. My first book was so I could wallpaper the stairway going up and down too. I mean, but always the same letter. It was the amazing Kreskin. Before I open the envelope, dear author, thank you for your submission. It does not meet our needs at this time. I was Kreskin every day, but I got okay. For every one rejection letter that came in, I'd send 3 more queries out. It's like, nope, not taking no for an answer. And when I wrote this, because this is one of these things that came in a fever. Every once in a while, those of you who write know that every once in a while, it's like you're taking dictation. It's a gift, and this is when it woke me up in the night. My dear friend in the world, John Murray, lives in Glasgow, Scotland, and they're 6 hours ahead. And one night, I get a very slurred email about 10:30 our time. This is, alas, I'm feeling a bit weak, coward, and beastie. I know that. Wait, what is that? I know that. So I pulled out my Robert Burns, and sure enough, the first line in Ode to a Mouse is, ye sleek, timorous, coward, and beastie, with a panics in my breastie. And I thought, isn't that how love is? That something that seems so small and insignificant, like a little mouse that was, his story was a mouse, turned out it's whole. I thought, isn't that how love is? That something that seems so tiny can rule the world. And I just was thinking, and I'd always called my friend John Murray a pirate because he buys overstocks and sells them and makes money at both ends. And I just, for grins, Googled his name. And there up popped some 5th century Scottish pirate named John Murray. And I went, oh! And then that night, I woke up, and it started coming in it, and it's rhyme, and it's a few Gaelic words thrown in, but it's an epic, right? It's a 45-minute story, but one long poem. And it kept waking me up, and I wrote this in a frenzy. So I started sending it out to get published, and they're like, are you kidding me? Poetry doesn't sell, and you want us to publish a 17th century Scottish epic? Yeah. So anyway, long story short, this Canadian composer read it and was inspired. He wrote me back and said, I don't know what it is, but it's waking me up in the night, just like it did for me. Waking him up, and he's like, the music's in my head, you gotta let me create an original score for this. And, okay. Yeah, let me think about that one. But
Think about it.
yeah, and so I was honored anyway, and then I looked Howard Bear up and found that he had done all these IMAX scores and the parts of the Winter Olympic theme of Canada, and just an amazing man. And so it's a beautiful thing. But this is my don't give up thing. I was either too stupid or too stubborn to take no for an answer, and this is what came of it. The second book I had out is Redefining Beauty, and that's my very bald head on the cover. 2 years ago, just in a regular mammogram, they found breast cancer. But because it was tiny, but because it was a monster, you still have to go through them. Which is why we go have checkups, to go get it checked out and attack it if it's there, to get it out. And I couldn't find what I needed. I needed something with grit, not something that was, oh, it's okay. No, so I started writing my way through it, not knowing I was creating a book. But so it's not a pretty book, but it was amazing. So it took how many years to get published, and through the magic of Facebook, someone had talked about that I was going through to someone else, and that I happened to be writing, and I had all these poems, and a publisher calls me. That never happened. And within 3 months and 2 days, this book went from him reading the magazine, it's crazy. And I'm so blessed because somehow or another, this book is making its way across the world. I don't know if people are saying, here, I've read this here. Because I'm starting to get messages from people everywhere going, this is exactly what I needed, which, it makes you think, okay, well, thank you for that experience. What comes out of it is our lemonade, right? Mm-hmm. And I tell kids at schools, I said, look, everyone has their demons. Everyone. And we all have them in some form or fashion. And this just happened to be mine. And writing my way through it. Well, I would read one, but we're in a chapel. I can't read that one.
You're letting the church. Give you the wrong message.
Well, it's called Spock Thinks I'm Sexy. Oh, let's see. I need to know my audience. I'll read that one later. We'll read that tonight. Are we going to have dinner tonight? No. Well, I'll read this other one. You have to have a sense of humor. Okay, you do. And I had the most beautiful head, round, cesarean baby-looking beauty. You never know until you lose your hair what your head looks like. And I own that look. I put on big, funky earrings and sunglasses. Yeah, this is G.I. Jane here. This is my look. So funny that Denton, it's a two-college town, right, on the square, has this 24-hour coffee shop. And I'd sit out there because, you kind of, that whole thing burns your throat and everything too. So they make this ice mocha. It's so yum. I'm sitting out there drinking my ice mocha. Nobody else knows. They just think another weird, because people in Denton are, two universities, everyone's pierced and tattooed, You don't know whether to look at them or read them. But that's okay, another expression of poetry. But, so 2 weeks later, these two college girls show up, and they had shaved their hair. And this kid came over going, man, I want my girlfriend to do that. And I'm like, good luck with that. I wasn't telling them why I was bald, but the chemo that I was getting, the doctor said, look, it is the strongest one, your hair is going to fall. And I'm like, oh, no, it's not, because I'm going to shave it. It's not going to fall out. I'm going to shave it. And that just gives you power, control, empowering, just something to make you feel stronger. But so I'm out there, and ladies, do you remember being 9 months pregnant? Right? Mm-hmm. So obviously pregnant. And walking along, and strangers coming out of the woodwork telling you horrible birthing stories. I was in labor 100 hours, and my baby had 4 hands. I'm like, don't tell us that, right? Do you remember that? People just the same way for chemo. Especially when you lose your eyebrows and lashes, that changes your face more than losing your hair, I think. But so I started in this little notepad. I started writing down what people were saying. I'm like, I can't make this up any better than this. I can't believe you just said that, but I'm gonna write it down. So everything in here are things people actually said. And I titled it, do you really think this is helping? Please, right now. Don't tell me the story about your grandma who died of cancer, or your childhood friend who only thought she licked it just to have it rear its ugly head again 2 years later. Trust me when I say, this isn't making me feel any better. And don't tell me every horror story you've ever heard about chemotherapy. About the woman whose teeth turned red, or whose toenails fell off, or who lost the use of her legs, or whose spleen exploded, or who had to have a blood transfusion, got AIDS, and died anyway. And I don't want a stinking pink new wardrobe, or a shoebox full of little curled pink ribbons with baby safety pins. And I swear, if you ask me again how it feels to live like you're dying, I will put a fist in your gut. Are you kidding? Do you know what you're saying? Chemo can't cure that amount of stupid. And for God's sake, never send the card where you write, I just heard the devastating diagnosis. You were such a lovely girl. Were? I think every cancer patient needs a button, or a shirt, or a bumper sticker, or a huge body billboard hanging down on both sides that reads, accepting only happy cancer stories. I'm a sucker for happy endings. Thank you. All right, and finally we'll read one more. I don't want you falling on your swords out there. Because I really have no idea time-wise how long I've been up here, so. But thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share this magic. This truly is one of those places. You know, one of those places that I can see myself, the ocean right there, see myself coming back to over and over again until, you know, you can finally figure out how to make a living and live here.
You will. You do.
I've heard that story from people all over town going, oh, we loved it, and it just finally had to move here. And I see that. I believe that certain places in the world have an energy, have their own, and as I said, this place that was created of the ocean, and it's part of the ocean, and it can't live without the ocean. The people are just as connected to each other as creation. I think that's what gives this place magic. And then to be in this amazing chapel and all the history here and all of the beautiful things that have happened right up here at the altar. I love that. So thank you. And I'm going to leave you today with one more. This is when you travel around, certain poems get to be your signature poems, and this has become one of them. And I was taking the kids to the checkup, the doctor visit. They had one of those big old round globes, right? Big ones that roll. Yeah. And I was traveling it around and came across the United States. And, well, it was in an office in Texas, because Texas took up half of the United States, as it should, as it should. And I put my hand there and went, look at that. The whites of my nails goes from Huntsville to Jasper. Well, that's all it took. It goes into my head and gets tumbled around and twisted around. And it's called When Texas No Longer Fits in the Glove Box. Once you unfold a road map of Texas, your world is changed. Towns like Falfurrias, Carthage, and Port Aransas suddenly become part of your life. And once you see them, you can't go back to not knowing them. You have to go there, even if it's just with your eyes or your finger, tracing those crow's feet county roads into unexplored territory. That's how knowledge works. That's how knowing works. Life is expanded. There's no going back. There's no refolding the map. It's like meeting an alarmingly charming man, discovering his dangerous detours and thrilling new paths, finding unforeseen forks and magnificent natural beauty. You look up at him and know that that crinkly arch between his eyes goes from Childress up to Amarillo, then back down to Muleshoe, that the whites of his nails reach from Huntsville to Jasper, that his green eyes encompass the Metroplex from Fort Worth to Denton to Dallas. And you can't help but imagine that that crooked hairline beneath his navel would run all the way down Highway 281 and across the border into dark, exotic Mexico. Or that his lips could take you on incredible road trips stretching clear across the state from El Paso to Nacogdoches with just a smile. Or that the best kiss of your life would whisk you through the wild, flowered hill country and leave you weak-kneed and breathless along the riverwalk of Old San Antonio.